This is going to be probably my last devlog before, well, no, it will be my last devlog before I have effectively finished my prototype. Well, I should reword that. I have finished my prototype, so I'm looking forward to showing you guys this. There are still some things I may change. It is due by tomorrow, the prototype that is. But yeah, I've finished the MVP. I've sort of reached a little bit above the MVP. MVP being minimum viable product. Um, and yeah, I've fixed a couple of my issues since my last devlog. Thanks to my friend Edward. Big thanks, because this was really starting to get me annoyed. I think I mentioned it last devlog, but you kind of run into an issue using GameMaker and GML of tutorials not really being existent. And there is not to say there aren't tutorials, but they aren't very good. Especially somebody who isn't a inherent coder. There's not much I can take from this. For example, I watched about 6 tutorials trying to figure out. Okay, I'll run you through. One of the issues that I fixed was my collisions, and as I had mentioned before, when you when you tried to go through through a platform, oftentimes you just be kind of stuck, just getting dragged upwards effectively. I tried to figure out how to fix that myself. That was not happening because I watched about 6 tutorials. Some of them would say some things that did make sense, but in practice, none of it actually works. Like, you can grab their code, paste it in, doesn't work. You can change it up to work with your game, doesn't work. On paper, it makes sense. In practice, it doesn't. A lot of them were saying, effectively, if your Y speed is in a positive, the collisions will be turned off. If it's in a negative, the collisions will be turned on, which is simply just meaning if you're going up, there's not going to be collisions. If you're going down, there is going to be collisions, which means once you've gone through the platform, will allow you to go through the platform, and then once you hit the platform, you'll be stuck on it. That on paper would work, on practice it doesn't, okay? Or at least for some reason it didn't work with mine. I've spent time working on trying to figure this out. So luckily my friend Ed would help me figure out a couple of things and work out some of this, so thank you. But yeah, things that I've added since, that was one major fix I've done. I've sort of fine-tuned some of the features, as in the knives throwing. I've kind of changed some variables to make it a little bit faster and feel a little bit better, and where it rotates from and stuff like that, just so it feels a little bit nicer. This is all subject to change. This is the prototype, but I'm still trying to understand what will need to be worked on in the future, and obviously with new models and new stuff, everything will need to be worked on and possibly reworked, but not necessarily reworked, but more just remade to fit, per se. So, one remaining issue, I do have 2 issues, and one of them I think I know the fix to. And I think it's just something that I accidentally did and I haven't changed back, would be the enemies still, go off the platforms. I know what the reason is. It's simply because the distance it moves is too much in comparison to the platforms, which means effectively it can move off the platform. It doesn't have gravity or anything like that, so it kind of just whoop goes off to the side and doesn't run into anything. I have fixed a lot of issues. I did run into the issue of it running a little bit badly, but there were 2 reasons behind it, and I've fixed them both. I had random disappearing platforms. That was simply because I had a script on my platform that effectively meant, well, I still have it actually. Technically, I added this thing, a variable called destroy timer, and destroy timer would effectively destroy the platform after a set period of time. Sounds good in practice. you run into some issues, especially if you notice my starting platform would randomly disappear, which is fine. That was kind of my idea. I don't want the platform, because you're not necessarily fully moving upwards, it's just everything's moving downwards, but you still sit in the same spot. It runs into some issues, so I did have to get rid of that. But that worked a bit weirdly with my other platforms and will cause it to run a little bit badly, because when you're going fast, these platforms are just, they're out of the screen, but they still exist. So the faster you get, the worse it's going to run. So I did fix that by doing a really simple fix by going if y is less than or equal to. I always get mixed up between these, buddy. Whicher. Regardless, I messed around with it. I know it works, and I know effectively what it is. Effectively, it's just meaning if it's lower than 540, my thing being 960 by 540, which has been upscaled. If it's lower than the bottom of the screen, it's going to be deleted. That's just good, because you don't need it as soon as it leaves. But also, I have a destroy timer that runs, and that's effectively for my starting platform. If I run my game, you'll see a starting platform, and within a set period of time, being 280 frames, you fall down. That's nice and fancy, and just works pretty well. I wanted to leave that there so you have a bit of time before you actually have to keep going, but I also don't want to leave it there for too long. I could also do a way of, if the player is not colliding with it anymore, then it gets deleted. But I think if you just want to jump around at the start and get used to the controls, you've still got 280 frames to run it and try out the controls. One other issue I had forgotten to do, because I'm such a genius, is I had forgotten to delete the enemies. The enemies still persisted, which means that your game would also run like shite. So one thing I had to do would be, there are multiple ways I could have achieved this fix, but the way I came around to it, achieve this, no, that is right. Anyway, just thinking my own stuff. I have this green bar, which is ironic because it's called, well, I'll play the game normally here. Yeah, they get deleted as soon as I touch it. Now, ironically, this green bar is called Invis Ground. It's not very invisible though. I will make it invisible. It's just a click of a button, but this is kind of some behind the scenes dev stuff where it's kind of like you think something's, you know, normal, and just is like fancy, but it's really not. It's just getting rid of stuff as soon as it touches it. And yeah. So this is also useful because sometimes when you got high in my game, I think I mentioned a couple streams ago, not streams, devlogs, you would sometimes not die. This stops, well, no, this does make you die, because no matter how high you are, if you touch this invisible ground, which I'm going to make it look fancy, you will just simply die, which is pretty cool. What else? I've added, you can take damage. I can't remember where I was at last time, but you can take damage now. You can kill the enemies. I don't think I had those before. There's also damage notifier, aka you being red, which is whenever you're colliding with an enemy, which means you can still be in an enemy, and you won't take damage as long as you're within the enemy, but outside of the damage you originally took. Also, one fancy little feature I have also added would be, I don't recall where I added it because I've got a lot of stuff here. I think I added it on the, is it the AI parent? No, it's on the AI? I can't remember where I added it. Ultimately, I added this feature. Here we go. So I've got a life timer, and this is like iframes per se, where if you get hit by an enemy for 10 frames, you can't take damage. I'll change this actually now to maybe 20 frames. 10 frames was more of just a test. But this means that effectively if you take damage by an enemy, you're not going to instantly take damage again if you accidentally walk back into him. This is more just me being a bit more, nice to you. What else have I added? I've added warning symbols. This was a last minute addition. I may make this, I don't know if I will be keeping this fully. I probably will, I've already made it, but it may just be a toggleable setting. If I can figure out how to do settings in the future. This is really simple. It's just adding a simple warning sign, and this tells you where the next enemy is going to be. This is just to make it a bit easier for you. Obviously, you may be saying, wow, that's too easy. No, it's not too easy. If you go around and play the game, you'll get to the point where the enemies are coming down fast, the platforms are coming down fast. The warning is nice, but it's more of like a teaching thing. At the start, you're like, oh, okay, so these are where the enemies are. By the time that you're like, 1,000, 2,000, for score, the platforms will be moving fast, so you're not going to be seeing these warning signs as quickly as possible. Also, they get deleted as soon as they touch it, and that was a little bit of a tricky to figure out how to make that work, but it was more just some brainstorming ideas. What else? I've got lives. I think I had them last time. I'm not sure if I did. You've got 3 lives of touching enemies, so the enemies can kill you. Also, you can also kill the enemies. You can also die by the thing. One thing I do want to quickly test. This is me testing while in my devlog. I have an issue where sometimes my knives go through the ground. Now, one change I did make was I made the collision smaller, because one way I was trying to fix that stupid phasing through the ground was just to make the ground collision a lot smaller. It did not fix it, did not change anything. The way we did actually fix it, so I did try to talk to the teacher. Teacher gave me a sort of fix, but it was the fix allowed me to go through the platforms, but it caused a lot of issues. So I was speaking with my friend Edward. We came up with the conclusion that a band-aid fix would be effectively if you touch these, it would like push you through it. Which technically it was, but we changed it to be a little bit better. Also, now you're not having the issue of like phasing through only vertically, because we've effectively gotten rid of the horizontal collisions with it, meaning if you're going in on an angle, it doesn't matter what angle you're going in, it's still going to push you through, and you're not going to have any different collisions when it comes to horizontally. Now, if I to play my game now, it's a lot more playable. I'm just going to test. Yep, that was looking a lot better in terms of the knives not actually phasing through. So as you'll see, the character's a little bit jumpy. I could work on that a little bit more. I know relatively what's causing that. I've also got a cursor now. This is also a work in progress cursor, but all you got to do is touch these platforms to get bumped up. That generally works fine and is pretty cool. One cool feature you can do now is also screen wrap, so you can go through. I think I do have an issue right now with the screen wrapping where if you die while outside of it, it doesn't reset you because you're not touching this. That is a really simple fix, but that is a noticeable issue. I do know that. It allows you to cheat. You can press R to reload. I'm not sure if I will keep that in here, but in the final game, I may, just in case if you do run into any issues. But yeah, that's at least a nice, easy feature I've added. Oops. So yeah, you can see the warning symbols are pretty helpful to see where the enemies are and spawning. I think it works pretty flawlessly. The game feels quite nice. And I guess last thing I'm going to do would be show you something awesome. Yeah. The game... well, okay, this may look a little bit different. I'll save this. And boom, close Game Maker. No Game Maker, I've built the game. So the game actually has an executable. I could post this executable. Wow. I was just thinking, I was planning on working on something last night, and okay, let me relaunch Game Maker. To give you guys a little bit of an insight into something I was planning on working at, and adding. I'm adding, hopefully, if possible, gamepad support, so you can play with a controller. Now, I've watched a couple videos and have gone to a couple talks about... Okay, now I'll tell you as it is. I went to a talk, so I go to, I think I've mentioned outside of my game dev vlogs, as I go to game dev meetups. I unfortunately couldn't make it to last time, but I watched it online, and it was about a guy who was talking about how to sell your indie games and how to, what's important. And one thing he stated was, you should always have gamepad support. That's like, assuming you can, you should add it. And it's simply because A, some people do prefer playing on gamepad, and B, if it is possible and you ever want to in the future, you can add console support to your game. Because if you don't include gamepad support natively, then that can cause a lot of issues when going to try make a console port of the game. It's not to say I will make a console port, but assuming it is possible, I'll still try to make it playable with a controller that is just reaching a wider target and should make the game a bit cooler. So I'm just going to double check. I just want to know if I actually have it to decide to start adding that. I was watching a video on it, but I don't know if I did start writing it. No, I don't think I have. No. It did seem pretty straightforward, but we'll maybe add that later tonight. Well, today, it's not really the night. But yeah, so ultimately, hope you guys like that. I'm not sure if I will upload my executable, but at least know it's fully playable and I'll be submitting it soon. I think it's pretty good. Let me know if there's any features or things you'd want to see changed, and let me know, you know, if you like it, dislike it, and if you dislike it, just why you dislike it. Cause, you know, it's alright to have opposing opinions, as long as it, you know, there's reason to opposing opinion. One thing I will have to fix is that weird jumping out of the map. I don't know if I'll fix that before the end of the this test, the MVP, but that is definitely something I'm going to add. But yeah, no, I died. But yeah, just hit me up, you know, comments, or if I, you know, am able to, if you have my contact or something via Discord or Steam or something like that, just, you know, feel free to message me there and we can have a little chat, or just, if anything, just let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys all for watching my third devlog, I think it is. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys like the process, the progress, I should say, and a bit of the process I did explain. And yeah, thanks. Catch you next time. Don't know when I'll be fully in depth working on this again. Hopefully not too long. See ya.